So tonight, giving, okay? It's important to understand that there are different types of giving. And if you don't know this, because people don't teach us this, they say what to give is to give, okay? But people get so exhausted by giving too much of themselves, giving more than they've got. And it's amazing because in my practice, like I said, the topic for these Wednesday evening sessions usually arise in my practice. And over the last 2 months in the practice, there were a lot of people struggling with giving and not getting recognition in return. And I thought about that for a while. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting because giving should not be something that would lead you to a life of feeling depressed, feeling tired, feeling exhausted, feeling not good enough. And the first thing that these people did was give out of guilt. So giving things out of guilt and from a guilty perspective because you feel bad, somebody did something nice to you, you owe them something. That's not unnatural. It's called the law of reciprocity. Now, the law of reciprocity is something, if somebody gives you something, it's inherently in our code as human beings that we want to do something nice for them as well or give something back. And you can see the mentalists take advantage of this rule or this law. They'll hand you something, they'll take something while they're switching and talking and handing over things. They confuse the people so much that they take their personal belongings. And the person doesn't even remember that they gave their personal belongings to the mentalist because it's just that natural thing. Hold this, and then you take something, then please hold this for me. I'll take this from you. And then that law of reciprocity kicks in, and it's just you want to give something back to someone. Now, on a bigger scale, on a larger time scale, somebody did something for you that was great in the past, or something that was a nice gift, or anything, and you get that in your mind that you want to reciprocate the feeling or the action, that's perfectly fine. But it sometimes goes too far, and especially in abusive or manipulative relationships, that you want to give, and the other person takes. And this doesn't have to be an intimate relationship. This can be work relationships, can be friendships, it can be any type of relationship out there because there are many different kinds of relationships. So you first have to understand the law of reciprocity. Somebody does nice things for you. It is natural if you're a human being to want to do something nice for them in return. But to what extent? That is where you need to understand the boundaries of giving. Okay. So the Bhagavad Gita is a nice little book. They speculate it's about 5,000 years old. That's when it was written first. And it's part of a bigger Hindu writing called the Mahabharata. And it's a religious piece of 18 chapters. And this little book is a life changer. I mean, it's so old, but the truths that are in it is quite amazing. Now, according to Hindu scriptures, there are 3 gunas that we have to understand before I get into the giving thing. The gunas are called qualities. So it's different qualities that's in life in general. Now, these qualities are called rajas, sattvas, and tamas. So rajas, sattva, and tamas. Now, these 3 qualities pertain to lots of different things. But imagine my surprise when I read in one of the chapters about beginning of this year, I read about the 3 types of giving. And I thought, wow, nice coincidence. Although coincidences probably don't exist. But I was wondering about the giving thing. And here in the Bhagavad Gita was the 3 types of giving that people can do. And I thought to myself, wow, amazing. How cool is that? There's a nice answer. And if you understand the 3 types of giving, you can see what you can and what you cannot give and how other people give towards you. All right. So there are 3 types of givers. If a person is a rajasic giver, that means they give according to the qualities of rajas. All right. That's a very passionate giving. That's giving with something that you expect in return for some other favor. So you give things to people expecting favors in return or expecting other things in return, like materialistic objects or even money in return. That's rajasic because that's your passion. That's what most giving is in the business world or in relationships. There's this compromise, there's give and take, but especially in the business world. So that's the rajasic part. Tamasic givers, the guys that's got the tamasic quality, they just give whatever. They give at inappropriate times. They give to inappropriate people. They give with no intent, no emotion whatsoever. It's just giving. Everybody everywhere just gets everything. I equate that to giving someone a pair of socks when they're in need of food. You just give without thought of the gift. And a lot of people do that as well. They think that giving is actually quite nice, so they just give whatever they can. Now, on the guru level, on the Indian mystic level, any mysticism level for that matter, you get the gurus that give, give, give. They'll give everything. They won't even wear clothes. They'll just wear a cloth around their waist, and everything they get is not theirs. They say they don't own it, so they give it away. That type of giving is not necessarily Tamasic giving, because that's a holy person who dedicated their lives to a holy type of life. But in the average everyday life, I equate that exactly the same way. If you give, give, give without thought of giving, you are causing damage. You are causing heartache, you'll cause trouble, and it's not appropriate to give in that way. Now, the third type of giver or giving quality is the sattvic giving quality. Now, if you've got a sattvic giving quality, you give to a person at the appropriate time, under the appropriate circumstances, to a person who deserves it, and with loving intent and no want for any type of return on what you give. So when we do this, and it is possible to do this, but it's only possible to do this if you know yourself what you're able to give. Because nowhere in nature does anything give more than it can. Let's take a fruit tree, for example. A fruit tree only bears fruits, as many fruits as it can. It doesn't give you the whole tree. It gives you fruit. And as you get fruit from the fruit tree, you don't take the leaves and the bark and the root and the ground which is planted upon. You just take the fruit. When the fruit of the fruit tree is finished, can it give you more? No, it's impossible. It cannot give you more. Nothing in nature gives more than it can. And here we come as humans. We want to be nice. So we deplete ourselves. We give, 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 give. Now it's important to understand what type of giving you're giving according to those three gunas. And you can watch people. If you see people giving in front of the cameras and wanting acknowledgement, wanting favor, wanting fame for giving, that's not really nice giving, especially for charity. I actually read a meme the other day with Jim Carrey. He's an actor and he's a comedic actor. And he said, imagine somebody sitting on the street being very hungry and you come stick a camera in their face, give them food, and just look like their savior. Imagine what that does to the person. That's not nice. That's sort of like the Rajasic, the passion type of giving. If you can give at the right moment, at the appropriate time to a person that's deserving, you won't want anybody else to know. It will be a sacred contract between the two of you. And that goes for friends, that goes for partners, that goes for business partners. So what are you giving? That's an important question to ask. Are you giving your time? Are you giving money? Are you giving your energy? Are you giving your mental capacity by sharing with people? So whatever part of yourself that you're giving, you must know how much of it you can give. And at the basis of all these giving interactions, there's only one thing that forms the foundation of all giving. And what is it that you're giving? You are giving your time. It's amazing to think about that. Because since you've logged on here, you've given me about 12 minutes of your time. And that's about 12 minutes closer to death. So I hope it's worth it. Thank you. Okay. So what you give is mostly your time. If you want to spend time with people on mental conversations, trying to sort out their problems, listening to them, talking to them, if you want to give them physical interactions, whether it is in an intimate relationship or whether it's a hug, or if you want to give them financial assistance, all these things has time at their foundation. Time is the important thing. You are giving time. Now, if you take a step back and you think, okay, what am I spending my time on? Who am I spending my time with? Is it worth it, first of all? If the answer is yes, then in that time that I am spending with these people, can I give them financial assistance, for instance? If you cannot, perfectly fine. Then you tell yourself or ask yourself, what do I bring to this interaction that I've sacrificed my time for to the table that I want to give to the people in a Rajasic sense? And that means if you can, in a sattvic sense, apologies. If you give it in a sattvic sense, it means you give the appropriate time, the appropriate person, and without any need for reward. So for instance, I had a client, I think it was last year. He spent a lot of money on his kids, a lot of money, but they treated him like you cannot believe. It's actually sad. And in his guilt, giving from guilt, He gave them all the money that they wanted if they were struggling. And he was not happy. He was not happy at all. He didn't have peace. He felt exhausted. He felt used. He felt abused, naturally, because he was giving money, but he was only getting bad feedback. They ignored him. They blocked him on social media and contacts. And whenever they wanted money, they would contact him. Now, if we take a step back, what type of giving is that? Giving out of guilt. That is rejected giving because he wanted something in return. And then I told him, okay, hold on, wait a minute. If you love somebody, say your children, say you've got an obligation to your children, like most parents do, what is it that your kids need to survive? They need a roof over their head, they need food, and that's about it. Food and shelter is the most basic thing they need. How much would that cost to provide that for them? So he knew how to figure out that he won't be abused by them asking more in return. And then he could ease his guilt. And then if he eased his guilt, he was immediately more relaxed, felt immediately more empowered. But he thought, according to social norms, that you have to give to your children. And it sounds admirable. If you have children, you would want to do everything in your power to keep them happy and give them the world. But you cannot. It's not realistic. So what is realistic? What can you give? What can you give in forms of emotional support, in forms of physical support, in forms of mental support, financial support? And then you go and adjust your levels of giving. Because if you give too much and you cannot give more than you have, or you give more than you have, you are going to get depressed. And that to me was an interesting link between depression and giving. So if we take a step back, time is the foundation of all that you give. If you give your time, make sure that you give it to the people that you want and that you need and that deserve it. Now people say, okay, but what about work? Spend 9 to 5 at work. Well, average time, some people spend more hours. Well, you are working to get something in return. If that is a healthy relationship, you'll be happy at work. If you feel you're being rewarded for your time and effort, recognized for your time and effort, that's just a natural thing that you give. So if you give your time for work, how many hours do you give for work? And a very, very successful business people spend more time at work and sacrifice more things for work until they realize, but they don't have to spend that much time. They'll spend their agreed time on what they want. And then business owners come and they spend 24 hours a day on their business. But that's exhausting, because if you spend 24 hours a day on your business, what are you giving? How much time are you giving to yourself? How much time are you giving to the other things and the other factors in your life that need attention? Then it becomes quite a roller coaster ride. So when we give, what is a good indication that if you're giving to someone, they're not giving back enough? It will relate to your energy levels. If you feel depleted the whole time, if you feel tired the whole time, whether it is in a partnership, whether it is in a business environment, that exhaustion is sometimes a nice indication of maybe you're giving too much. Then you must ask yourself, okay, where did I put boundaries in what I am able to give? Am I able to give 18 hours a day for a company? No. Then you need to adjust it and fix it. Am I able to give 24 hours a day to a needy partner? No. Then you have to adjust it. Am I able to give 24 hours a day to my children? No. Then you have to adjust it. Okay. I hope you get the idea. It sounds a bit cruel in some cases, but if you don't spend time by giving something to yourself, you cannot give anything of what you have to another person. For instance, I always use this example with clients because it hits home. If you die of thirst and the person you love the most comes and wants water from you, are you going to be able to give them water? I think not. You're busy dehydrating, you're also busy dying of thirst, but they want water from you, but you cannot give them water. So if you equate the water to your time, to your energy, to your physical contributions, to your mental contributions, your financial contributions, okay, it becomes a whole different ballgame. Then it's okay just to give as much as you can and not give more than you can. Now, what to do if you feel like you've been taken advantage of? If you feel like you've given everything, you didn't get anything in return. First, go and adjust and find out what was it that you wanted in return, and what would that return that you would have gotten be the upside for. So say, for instance, if you take a husband and wife situation or a married couple situation, So the husband just gives money, 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 money. The wife spends, 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 spends. And then the husband sits alone at night at home and he feels quite lonely. He can't discuss anything. His wife is not around. She's not there emotionally for him. And then he gets the idea, but he's been paying so much. He's been supporting her. What support? Financial support. And now he wants emotional support. That's not going to be sustainable. So what is going to be the upside for him getting the emotional support? Oh, he might feel like he has someone to talk to. He might have an outlet for what's bothering him. He might feel like he has a companion. Then you go, okay, where are you a companion for yourself? Where are you taking steps to improve your emotional well-being? And then those questions, when they start to circulate in the mind, you go, okay, but wait a minute. Maybe I can give less of this, but give more of this to myself. And as I give more of this to myself, I can discuss this with my partner. And then the relationship starts to find equilibrium and balance. So that's just one example. There are lots of examples in lots of different relationship aspects that happens if you actually try to give more than you can. Okay. A good question to ask yourself is, where have you been taught that giving more of yourself is admirable? Because it sounds nice, doesn't it? If I can give, I've given it my all. I can sacrifice myself. Self-sacrifice sounds so amazing. I'll do anything for my children. I'll do anything for my husband. I'll do anything for my wife. I'll do anything for my country. I'll do anything for my business. No matter what it is, where are you self-sacrificing, and who taught you that that self-sacrifice is sustainable and that it's good for you? It's a weird question to ask, but if you start asking these types of questions, then you go, okay, wait, maybe it was an authority figure, maybe it was a parent figure, maybe it was a close relationship in which I sacrificed so much because I thought that was the right thing to do. Who taught you if that was the right thing to do? It's very important to go back and find out who taught you things, because in life, we only learn from other people and experiences. You can have all the theoretical knowledge in the world, but if you don't apply it, and if you don't mix with people, and if you don't go around connecting with people, you'll never learn. So what do children do? They learn from their superiors, from their authority figures, teachers, parents, all the kids. And those things get stuck. So if you were to explain to a child what healthy giving would look like, what would that be? How would you explain to a little child what is healthy giving and what is unhealthy giving? And a good way to fall back on is to find the three qualities. Do people give at the right moment to the appropriate person at the appropriate time and with no regards of what they're going to get back? Or do they give because they want fame, they want favors, they want something in return? Okay. Or do they give to at inappropriate times to inappropriate people just for the hell of it, with no intent and no thought behind the action whatsoever? Then it's like becomes a bit clearer. What types of givers are there in the world? Then you can go, what type of giver would you like to be? And it's not a right or wrong thing. If you want to be the type of giver that just sacrifices everything and just give, you must know what the consequences are going to be. There's no right or wrong. There's only consequences to actions. So it's okay if you give too much. It's okay if you give more than you can. But you must know what the consequences are and be able to live with those consequences. That is consciousness that's consciousness when you give like that. Okay, and that's consciousness at work. And that's a whole different approach in giving. And then it's also nice to categorize it like, what are you giving? Are you the person who gives financial support? Yes. What do you expect in return for the financial support? Because it's very difficult for us as humans not to give without expecting return. Society doesn't work that way. Imagine go to work and not expect anything in return, not a salary. Imagine you have a business, but you don't expect to make money. Imagine you go to a restaurant, but don't really expect to get food. It doesn't work that way. Okay, you pay a restaurant for food, you expect something in return. So we have to play on the projected quality and then eventually go beyond that in certain cases. So if that's the quality that you're giving and that's the type of giver that you want to be, by all means, go for it. But do it 100% willingly and consciously. And then it'll be a different story. Then your energy levels won't be so depleted. And a lot of the times, the balance in relationships are not equal, purely energetically. Okay, now what's the energetic component connected to? Is it connected to the other person's actions? Is it connected to the other person's financial status? Is it connected to the other person's emotional intelligence? Is it connected to the other person's physical attractiveness? What is that energy that you try and balance out in relationships? And then you'll find where you can give and what you cannot give. And question, do you find that it's easy to say no when somebody asks you something? Thank you, but no thank you is the first step. And funny, because we try and be courteous, we try and be nice, we try and be polite, it's very difficult to say no under certain circumstances, but it's important. And incidentally, if you can say no just with nice sincerity, and the people around you really care about you, will acknowledge that sincerity and will accept the no. But if there's an abusive person in your environment, the no's will be like a death blow to that relationship. They'll freak out, they'll fight, they'll try and manipulate you. So it's a good experience to go, thank you, but no thank you. You can go test it. It'll be funny because we're all here to do that, is to test our abilities to see what we can and cannot give. Okay, and if you struggle with this concept, just go back to nature. We are a part of a natural process on this planet. Everything in nature has life, everything in nature has a symbiotic relationship with the environment around it. And we go back to the example of the fruit tree. The fruit tree offers its fruits. It doesn't offer you its branches, its leaves, its roots, the ground that it's planted upon. Okay, it doesn't offer you that. The fruits are edible. It offers you the fruit. So what would be your fruits that you can offer? Okay, if that makes sense. So I hope it made some light bulbs go on. I hope that giving is not a duty that you feel you have to perform. And it's funny because that law of reciprocity, when, I don't know if you guys ever been in a restaurant or by the side of the road, there are some beggars that hand you things like little crosses or little cards if they're deaf or something. They hand you something. And immediately when somebody hands you something, it's like, okay, I got this. Now what? Now it feels like you should give them something in return. Okay. And that's not necessarily the case. And there's a good chance that you'll feel guilty if you don't give that person something. Okay, that's why people try and avoid them. So meet someone at an equal level of interaction. If you meet a person that's homeless next to the street, you meet that person as a person. You wonder, okay, what's happening in that person's life? How was his business today? Did he get any money? Did he get anything that he can eat? And just ask questions and then carry on. And it's funny when that happens because then that person becomes a person. I did that very often, and I always tell the story. I think some of you might have heard it. But there was a beggar next to the street on my way to training and to the gym where we are. And he used to stand next to the road and beg, and I found out his name. And for about 2 years, he's gone now. I don't know where he's gone. I saw him middle of last year, he disappeared. For about 2 to 3 years, every day I would see him when I traveled, and I would speak to him. I didn't give him anything. And he would walk past the cars to come and greet me and just ask how I am, ask how he was, because I just recognized the person. But there are some days when I looked at him and I thought, wow, maybe today he needs a bit of money or he needs a bit of help, because I could just see he was off. So if I had anything to give, I would give him then. And he was quite amazed and quite thankful always. Okay, and that's the idea. If you are in tune with what you're able to give, if you are in tune with meeting other people as human beings on the human level, you can start to intuitively pick up when would be the right time to give to someone, what would be the right circumstances to give to someone, when would be the appropriate time to give to someone, and a deserving person. Now, the deserving person is quite a tricky one. If we go through who deserves to get what, okay, that's a difficult one. But not all people want the same thing. It's funny when you ask people, everybody wants to be rich. Yes, we all want money. What do you want it for? Don't know. Okay. So, and if you go dig a little deeper and you ask people, okay, I can give you this amount of money, would that be enough? Yeah, for most people, be sure. What are you going to use it for? No, I want to use it for toys, TV, food. I needed to pay rent. I needed to pay electricity. So you actually start to fathom out what they use it for. And the more you have those conversations, the more you can connect the dots to find out, okay, what do people actually really need? What does this person actually really need? And then if you're able in the position to give it, perfect. If you can't give anything and you really, really want to give something, send that person loving intent. Sounds a bit airy-fairy, but send that person just loving intent and say thank you. Okay. And another thing, the car guards, that loving intent. I learned this from a very close friend of mine, actually. So what she would do, if she doesn't have money, she would go, but I give you lots of light and lots of blessings. I don't have money. You should see the faces of the car guards light up. It's like, oh, they also just want peace and love and light. And it's so funny to say that to a car guard, but to see them, how they experience it, is amazing. So I started doing that too. And the feedback you get is actually quite amazing. It's like they smile and they're happy. So if you cannot give anything, just give loving intent, even to the people that drain your energy. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that you will be giving in future, not just for the sake of giving, but giving what you can to conserve your energy and therefore prohibit some depression coming through. So you want to not lose too much energy by giving and become depressed. Okay, I see our time's up. If you have any questions, I'll give a minute or two. You can type in the chat box. I'll answer if something wasn't clear. If there's something you want to recap, I'll just check in the chat box for a couple of minutes. So yes, thank you for giving me your time this evening. I hope it was worth it, and I hope it made a bit of sense. And remember, at the base of everything that you do is your time. So even if you can't give anything, just know that you're going to give your time to someone. Okay. So thank you all for joining me, and I hope you have a very, very peaceful evening.